Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys can hear us this time. So, quality as far as the picture might not be as good because we're going to try to do this using the phone instead of going through OBS Studio and see if this works. Yeah, we have great internet typically. It's been fine. There you go. I just think it's really the powers that be when you get down to it. We've run into this many times before over the years where they just want to stop us from doing our thing. And that's because we're exposing them doing their thing. you know.
Yeah, it
So
is.
they know what we're talking about. They know who we are, and so they want to stop all this. Exactly as Michael says, censorship. So this will be a little different. Um, Basically filming the computer with the phone here. There we go. Oh, solar flare today, yeah. So it could be legit that it's just simply that because we are gonna. I felt for sure we're gonna see some major disruptions by the end of the year. That will be coming because of the weakened magnetosphere, as well as the likely war that's coming as well. Yeah, they are. They're playing with a lot of channels out there. I have seen that. So, taking a look at Ventusky, and we see Hurricane Laura, which is a Cat 4 now, taking aim. And so we have a low pressure system over to the west and a high pressure system over to the east that's going to basically steer Laura right in again towards the border of Texas and Louisiana. Although it wouldn't surprise me if there was some manipulation of things to make it again be as bad as possible, because we've seen that before
Hmm.
many times.
That's what they do. They love to manipulate things or take advantage of a good situation. We see that over and over and over, where they say, never let a good crisis go to waste. So they take that and glean from it whatever control they can and use it.
Yeah, most definitely. So, it's when you're if you've been watching this storm the whole way, there was a time when it looked like it would probably hit as either a tropical storm or a category 1. And now, it's a category 4 right now. And they're saying that it might dissipate a little bit, but only after strengthening a little bit more. So, it's going to end up being a category 5 is the question. And really, when you get to category 4, category 5, it's going to be a devastating impact when it hits.
Hmm. It will be, I mean, I don't sense any external interference with this. I think she's very powerful on her own.
Yeah, and so far.
Yeah,
And
so
so
far.
far, because, as is right now, just a little bit of steering effect
Hmm.
could bring it in closer to like Houston, where there's a lot more population.
Hmm.
Um, we'll have to watch again. Should be impacting sometime late tonight, early tomorrow morning. It will be coming on shore with a lot of storm surge. And so, again, let's send our intention and our prayers. As we said yesterday, let's try to visualize a little wind shear here. Um, because this is going to be a very, very strong one at impact. I'm going to okey doke.
Thanks, you guys, for your patience with this one. We really appreciate it.
So we were talking about Hurricane Michael and comparisons with Hurricane Michael because Hurricane Michael went from nothing, very, very low power, a tropical storm, to just it exceeded everybody's expectations. And as we had said, it ended up being Category 4, they told us when it impacted, though now, posthumously, it's a Category 5. And so Laura will be as strong or slightly stronger than Hurricane Hugo was at the time of landfall. Like South Carolina, southern Louisiana is extremely prone to storm surge, flooding, and devastation that will unfold there tonight. And Hurricane Hugo did a lot of damage. That was a biggie, hitting around Charleston area. It's definitely one of my favorite places. Hurricane Hugo, you see here, it was a powerful Cape Verde tropical cyclone that inflicted widespread damage across the northeastern Caribbean, southeastern United States back in '89. Along its track, Hugo affected approximately 2 million people. Its direct effects killed 67 people and inflicted 11 billion in damage. At its peak strength, east of the Lesser Antilles, it was classified as a Category 5 hurricane, the highest rating on the Saffir-Simpson scale. So could we be seeing something very similar to that impacting? And tracking Laura, so you can see where it is right now. Currently a Category 4, should be a Category 4 more than likely when it's going to be making its landfall. Possibility of dropping down to a 3, but then we also have the possibility of more strengthening as well. Any way you're looking at it, it's going to have a severe impact, and it's going to most definitely bring with it a very, very large storm surge. And that storm surge people have really been talking about as unsurvivable. So most definitely anybody that's in the low-lying area, hopefully they're all evacuated.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not want to hang around for this one. I've never been in a hurricane. I think some parts of it might be interesting to have that experience, but with the way this one's acting, I wouldn't want to be there.
No, I've been through a couple hurricanes, and Cindy gets excited. She feels the electricity in the air and all, but then when you're actually in the middle of it, it could be something else other than exciting. And of course, we've seen just amazing devastation by so many different ones in recent years. Hugo was a huge one, but that was back in '89. And perhaps many people out there don't remember that. But most remember Katrina and also Harvey and Michael and Irma and so many other ones. The storms are definitely getting stronger. There's a lot more moisture in the air. Everything is changing. The flooding that's going around all around the globe is truly catastrophic. It's all piling on and leading to what is going to be a real problem with the food supply, and it's already mounting, and we've seen that. So Texas Louisiana border area, be prepared. Hopefully everybody is already out of there. As you see, it's developed into a catastrophic Category 4 hurricane, and so this one is going to have, as they say, unsurvivable storm surge with large and destructive waves that will cause catastrophic damage from Sea Rim State Park, Texas to intercoastal city, Louisiana. And the surge could penetrate up to 30 miles inland. That's huge, 30 miles inland. There's actually waves, and we could even peek over at Ventusky. It's been showing waves in the 30-foot range. Look at that, 36-foot wave, 37-foot wave. They're a little bit more than 37 foot. That's all heading in and towards land. So there's a large wall of water that's going to be inundating this whole area. Very, very much something to take extremely seriously. But I do think because of all the catastrophes that we've had, people are taking it seriously for the most part nowadays. I don't think people downplay things as much as we might have in the past, but it just seems that every storm now that hits is usually heavy duty.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been making a point, it seems like, for the last few storms when they say watch out or board up your windows or get out of there. I would definitely get out of there. I wouldn't hang around and try to wait this one out. It's just not worth it.
No, most definitely not. With 140-mile-an-hour winds that may be increasing, that's nothing to sneeze at. And then also, obviously, the storm surge and the rainfall. So it's moving northwest at 16 miles an hour. Well, that's pretty good speed. So that's actually good in the sense that it's not going to linger over one area and just pile on tons and tons of rain. But this particular one, we're going to be watching the winds and the storm surge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a whole lot of these, a lot about hurricanes, but it's, I don't know, isn't it kind of strange it is coming in where it is coming in Texas? I thought it was going to hit closer to Florida.
Now, early on, they're figuring it would be around Louisiana. It's been pretty consistent as far as the track. The pressure's down 948 millibars, so it is continuing to drop. So that means the storm is strengthening. And here is the latest bulletin. And it's a extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane. As we're saying, catastrophic storm surge, extreme winds, flash flooding, and also the possibility of tornadoes. And that could develop. And here you already see the water coming on in as the storm surge is approaching. As the outer bands of Hurricane Laura are starting to come ashore into some of the Gulf states. Yeah, it gets to be a pretty scary situation. Um, I remember I was one of those crazy people that we had a nor'easter up in Connecticut, and I had a Jeep at that time. I had to go down to the beach, and the road by the beach, the water was all the way up, to the top of the tires. It was pretty crazy. It was in December too, so it was all like icy, snowy slush. And that time too, we ended up getting some serious flooding in the town I was living in. And a lot of houses were damaged as well.
Oh,
So,
Ewok is asking if that's a river. It looks like a lake.
well, no, that's actually the beach.
Wow.
That's the beach. So
Okay.
that's all coming into the beach right now. And that whole area will be these signs will probably be totally underwater by the time this is all done. And then we look back and we see the death toll from Laura climbs in the Caribbean to at least 23 as this young lady's making her way through knee-deep water. And so many people have, knee-deep to chin-high water
Mm-hmm.
all around the globe. And so that's in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. And so Laura's already done damage. She's already claimed lives. And, you just watch the motion there. It is they're expecting it to go more towards the north, making its way. Right now it's northwest. So right now it's kind of like heading more straight towards Houston. But because of the steering low that's over here and the high pressure over there, they feel it's going to make that turn and then head eventually over towards the east. So, you have people missing in the Caribbean still. We just, we'll share with you some other horrible weather-related things that are going on too, because there's just so much going on. So this is what the impact is looking like. So eastern Texas, Louisiana, like is the entirety of Louisiana pretty much is going to feel the wrath of this storm. And then so will Arkansas too, as it moves its way on up and in, and western Mississippi, and then Tennessee. About half the state of Tennessee will see some pretty good impacts from this, as will Kentucky, and a little lower area of Missouri, and even Illinois, and then head towards West Virginia. So be aware, obviously catastrophic storm surge. We're going to have isolated tornadoes coming out, coastal flooding, flash flooding, structural damage, dangerous waves and rip currents. And, this is a big one. This is most definitely one that we'll probably talk about in the future as you see it making its way there towards shore. Very strong storm, very, very powerful. And this out of Russia Today, as it says, they're talking about unsurvivable storm surge. Now, we do have also Storm Francis bring flood, damaging rainfall, and record-breaking winds to the UK and Ireland. So everywhere we've looked, the storms have gotten very, very intense. So Storm Francis hit parts of the UK and Ireland on Tuesday, bringing heavy rains and flooding that damaged hundreds of properties, prompted dozens of rescues, and left 2 people missing. The Met Office confirmed the storm also brought record high wind speeds across Wales and the Midlands, with gusts up to between 49 and 78 miles an hour. So you have fallen trees damaging hundreds of homes and businesses, debris also blocking roads and rail lines, disrupting traffic. And police are searching for 2 missing people who were feared to have fallen into a swollen river, Taff. Meanwhile, a woman was safely rescued from Ely, another swollen river in the Welsh capital. And, our good friend Dave, as I was talking to him many times, he was just saying it'd be a good place to be in the UK would be Wales, because it's a little bit higher in these times as far as just looking at everything that's coming. It's easy to say, let's get to the high ground now when you see a hurricane coming. But then when the weather's great, it's like, let's go to the beach. But what do you do in these times? What do you really do in these times? Many people are making last minute moves. And, we're just talking to someone who's in a city and has an opportunity to go and stay with a friend on a farm. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea inland again.
Definitely. And 2 dams in Karachi overflow, at least 7 killed in weather-related incidents. That is so sad. I can't stand to see when these pictures, when you know that the souls are no longer there.
Right. Yeah, it's just it's been so sad, and of course we're still watching Three Gorges, hoping that that holds up. But if it holds up for this year, will it hold up for next year? Because what's next year going to bring? It's probably going to bring more of the same, and it seems like every year it's getting a little more intense. And people are catching on to that. And as we've shared with you guys too, we've watched property all over the country and different safe zones. And so I still get notifications from, places like Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia. And oh boy, in the last month or two, all the remote places are being bought up left and right. People are, really starting to get it. The masses are starting to get it that, these weather events aren't going away. And also all the chaos from a geopolitical point of view as well. So, there's certain friends of ours that, have thought about moving out of major cities. And I've always been kind of nudging them, like, I think it would be a good idea, guys, head to the country, start, get a greenhouse going, start to be a little bit more self-sufficient. I understand there's certain aspects of being in an urban situation with all the amenities and all that can be wonderful, but for one, so many states are on lockdown that you can't enjoy things you usually could enjoy. And I'm glad that we are relatively close to a very, very small town where people know each other, and you could kind of I shouldn't say too much, but circumvent some of the things and have a somewhat normal existence. And off topic a little bit, but I saw yesterday, and I was going to bring this up in a video on Evolutionary, Idaho. They're voting to pull things back, and so you have city councils and state representatives that are saying, hey, we don't want to destroy our economy totally, and we want to actually live our lives. So they're speaking up more and taking a stance, and that's what we need. We definitely need a lot more of that. So yeah, at least 7 people were killed in different weather-related incidents across Karachi, Pakistan's largest city, on the 25th. And then on the 26th, 2 dams in the city overflowed, placing several towns at risk of major flooding. More heavy rains are expected across the region until Thursday. And you had 5 people drowned in one location, and 2 other died after being struck by lightning. And we saw, there's videos here, by the way, for you guys. I have all the links there. We saw 500 sheep killed in just a series of lightning strikes, and in other areas, over 100,000 uh, head of livestock were killed. Here you see again, and this is in Afghanistan, very, very close to Pakistan, at least 70 people dead, dozens injured from flooding, and just look at that destruction. As the heavy seasonal rains drenched northern and eastern Afghanistan, and then 90 have died in similar devastating weather events in Pakistan. So these areas are getting hammered, absolutely hammered, and they're not alone. It's happening all over the globe. Here's Panama City Beach, Florida. Look at that. And when I was in Florida too, and in meditation, it came to me. Well, it came to me that there's going to be some areas that are just the water's not going to recede. It's just not going to recede. It's look at that car. That's going to be what's coming. And if we didn't have all this stuff going on, I would be in Florida, probably, if not Costa Rica or Panama. If it was a normal world situation, and we're back somehow, rolled back into the 1980s, 1990s, even the early 2000s. Yeah, I would be enjoying myself going to the beach every day. That's what I would do. I always loved the beach more than the mountains, although I think now maybe I'm starting to become more of a mountain person than a beach person, and that's big for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've always liked the mountains, always preferred the trees, always preferred that kind of prana and the ruggedness that it has to offer. But look at that van. I wonder what that guy's thinking. And gosh, I wouldn't do that personally. Would never drive a vehicle. I would be so afraid of like falling in a ditch.
Yeah, not a good move. And so, the question was what happened to the other storm? There was two. Well, that one broke up. And that was what was thought would happen, that one would break up and then kind of feed the other. And that's what we got going on, where Laura is the one that's strengthening, and Marcos just basically broke up and dissipated. And this is in Yemen, and this was horrible. The family didn't make it. And so this is why that guy in Florida should have maybe not taken that chance. You just don't know. And, just got carried away. And this has happened so many times around the globe. So, these are not normal times. We should not chance things and think, well, I made it. We had floods last year. I made it over this pass or river or whatever. This year isn't last year. It keeps getting more intense. So, I would not take a chance. Most definitely not take a chance when it comes to something like that. Just, go the long way home. It's better to get home late than not get home at all.
What's a few minutes, or even if it's 10 or 20 minutes, at least you're alive and you're well and you're safe. So don't take any unnecessary risks, please.
And then, over in the West, we have the California fires as well as other fires all over the West going. So California reports 50 new wildfires overnight. 1.38 million acres burned so far, according to Governor Newsom. Man, California has gotten slammed. It really has. You got 40 million people-ish over there. It's the most populous state, although at some point in time, Texas will probably pass that. As obviously there's been so many devastating fires over there, and then the tax situation, and then the political situation. It's a mess, and we have many, many of our family members in California. My dad came from Sacramento, and so that was where he grew up as well. And I still have some distant cousins over there as well. And it's a beautiful state. It's got such diversity, amazing diversity, great climate overall. And in the winter, it produces so much of our food, our fresh produce. And it's getting toasted. And our whole food supply, the whole food chain is getting hit in one way or another.
It is, like Mike said, it's one way or another. If it's not something that's like natural disaster, it's almost like they try to calculate something and help things along so that our food supply is getting hit hard.
Yeah, and again, like we were talking about The interesting quake swarms, Dutch sense, caught the perhaps volcanic activity that was setting some of these things off. Um, that very well could be. And as he always talks about too, adding all the fracking and all the geothermal and everything is magnifying. Oklahoma now has got quakes every single day, multiple quakes, usually half a dozen or more every single day, and that just wasn't the case in the past. It's thanks to fracking. And if it does get revealed to everybody that we have advanced technology, we don't even need to be on fossil fuels. I think it's there. Many people think it's there. Just look at the work at Tesla. Look at all the patents that have been declassified. And if it turns out that this was, can you imagine how ticked people are going to be? I mean, if it turns out that the whole thing with fossil fuels and fracking and all the poisoning of the environment that's gone on, all the needless everything, catastrophes, energy, expenditure. Well, it is the apocalypse. Things are getting unveiled, and a lot of people are fed up. Hence, we see all the riots going on as well.
Well, Tesla did have all that information back in the day where he could send electricity or things, I guess we would call it now. He could have sent it Wi-Fi. Back then, he already had the technology, but the big money stepped in and they're like, no, 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 we don't want anybody to get anything for free at all. So we're going to wire this so you guys got to pay.
Yeah, it's all about money and control and power, and there's such a level of manipulation going on. Um, we are waking up. We have to have the right outlook on it though too, because you see the chaos. Look to what happened in Wisconsin. Just crazy, senseless, stupid. But people are getting easily manipulated. There really are dark forces out there. There's tons of dark forces out there that are manipulating people, as well as technologies out there that are affecting people's consciousness, affecting their decisions, affecting their minds, influencing them. It's so sad when you see the abuse of all the pharmaceuticals that goes on, when there's so many natural alternatives. I had shared in the past with you guys, like, high blood pressure runs in my family. I was diagnosed with it in early 30s. So instead of taking that, all I would simply take is arginine and citrulline, because that will lower your blood pressure naturally with no side effects. Well, the side effects are you have a little more energy and a little more strength and endurance. And, a bottle of that costs like $12 and lasts several months. So, no need to go that, uh, typical allopathic approach, which causes a lot of side effects, but makes certain companies really rich and creates the opportunity to create more new business with those, spoken of side effects. But that's the system that we have in place, and it's really sad. And as Rosewar says, we do need smaller tribes. We need to, come together as a family and unify. And Connie says what happened in Wisconsin. It was another shooting, and it was a 17-year-old boy with what looked to be like an AR-15, M16, probably an AR-15, and just chaos. There's so much of this chaos going on right now. People are being so manipulated, and they, unfortunately, so many of the masses don't realize they are being manipulated and riled up to just basically self-destruct. So that's where we have to have that Buddhist sense of detachment, not allow ourselves to be caught up in it, recognize it for what it is. It's all about just manipulating our consciousness to the point where we just attack each other. It's the whole Tower of Babel again. Hey, you can't have the people united because you never know what they might do. Peace might break out all over the place, and peace is not profitable.
No, peace isn't profitable at all. And, even down to our diets, they have it to where people are so busy from working and they're exhausted. So they just go to the store and they grab something super quick to eat. And that, that there can affect your health. Because if you are trying to do natural alternatives, one thing that will stop that from working to its full effect is the sugar. And I think that's just something that they've done on purpose, is put the preservatives and the sugars out there. So if you do try to go natural and it doesn't work, you'll blow it off like, oh, well, I knew it didn't work anyway. When really you got to get off the sugar to have these natural alternatives really work for you.
Yeah, and we need to be as healthy as we can in these times, obviously, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to occur, and our physical strength and endurance might get tested at some point. When the grid goes down and your car doesn't work or there's no gas, if we're going to need to be in shape mentally, spiritually, and physically.
It's so critical right now.
Yeah, as Connie says, clean up diets, no high fructose corn syrup.
And
It's pure toxic. As you see, $11.8 billion worth of homes threatened by the fires, 13,000 lightning strikes, over 650 wildfires, 50 new ones last night alone. This isn't over. This isn't over. This is still actually early in the season, and already it's just crushing the records. Thank you so much, Feel Free. We appreciate the support and the love, and sharing the love with everybody out there. We are going to be seeing, I think, mass migrations of people even in our country. I think in the United States you're going to see mass migrations of people. I think that you're going to see people at the last minute even coming to a realization of, just for instance, I don't think I could be in California anymore. So maybe Idaho would be good. Maybe Montana would be good, and then making those decisions. I think a lot of those are going to come about when we have all new laws, which are being rolled out now, put out into effect in the open. And then, it's going to be a case of, do I want to be in a state that's going to tell me I have to do this and I have no choice? Or, even being in a state that is just continuously fighting the same sort of fight with the earth changes. Like California has had 3 amazingly brutal years in a row now with the fires. And there's more than that. We have unusual quake swarms going on that indicate that, we might not be too far off from Cascadia or the San Andreas going as well.
No, we might not be too far at all, but it's really important that we pull ourselves up and out of the matrix, get out of the control network, take our health back, get our stuff in order. I think taking our health back is like the number one thing you could do to get out of the system.
And becoming self-sufficient as possible. So, you can see the satellite images, the smoke is just, as we said, it's making its way all the way to Kansas. That's pretty incredible. And these fires are truly historic. And again, it's not healthy air quality, that's for sure, when you're faced with this. But hey, we got our masks, right?
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And as we look at the air quality here, you see the red's unhealthy. So not a good situation. As we're looking at some of the major fires that are still going. And this gives us an idea. Look at the map. When you look at the west is on fire. And our good friend Larry over there in Texas is saying we're going to be looking like California if we don't get some rain soon. And, we do see there's some wildfires in Texas burning too, as well as southern Oklahoma, up into Nebraska, South Dakota, just all over the West.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of sad looking. Like you can't even see the states and stuff. It's just covered in fire.
Yeah, and again, the exodus from the populated areas is increasing. And I think that truly that is a wise thing. California is Australia now is the title here. This is out of Strange Sounds. So California Fire advised every citizen of the state, all 40 million of them, to be prepared to evacuate. That's quite a statement. evacuating 40 million people. You should be prepared. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Social distance. Stay safe. Come join us as it all burns.
Hmm.
Is that not an apocalyptic scene there?
That's like really, really sad looking. I mean, it has just a nasty vibration to it. It's sad. Yeah.
Yeah. So Connie says she's thinking of Louisiana, northern. If you're going to go that way, don't get too close to the water. Louisiana is so low lying, very very prone to flooding. So Susie T Dog says you could only be either in a boat or a camper, and we have the camper,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what we're kind of doing. We're staying flexible, and it's like, okay, which way do you want to go now? You want to go a little more north? Well, no, Yellowstone's rumbling. Okay, well, let's go a little more south then. Maybe we head a little bit east. We did start the garden and all, and then it got just too dang hot, so we transplanted and gave it away basically. Which it's doing well with what we did give away for the most part. Um, and I got from a friend that I was to be, and also kind of from my guides, that we're to be a little bit flexible and mobile. So I think a camper is not a bad thing, although at some point you're going to need to have your own food going. So, I mean, you could always do some things in small containers, container gardening. Um, there's perhaps, if you're able to, working with friends and family, have different location possibilities. As Cindy has family in some places, we have good friends in other places, and just watching what's happening is going to direct which direction we go in. Although I do feel there are some safer places than others, and we were starting to put together a video last night on that, but I realized it's going to be like a major endeavor to do it really, really right. So I'm going to take my time with that and put together one in greater depth as to like, well, where are there safe places? Because every place has its challenge. Every place is going to have its challenge in these times. Like I saw Scott said, Canada is great, and it is. It's going to be cold. Now, if we get a V7 somewhere, or even a couple of sixes, with some major volcanic activity, everything's going to cool off really fast. And so even though we're getting these extremes, after every period of global warming, there's always a big major cool off. So that's coming at some point in time. And then can you survive where it might be 30 or 40 actual temperature below if the grid's down? That's a big question. Do you have enough wood? Do you have a wood burning stove? Think about generators, all those type of things. There's so many things to take in mind when you're thinking about a perfect place.
Yeah, there's a ton of things to keep in mind. And right now, if you got stuff stocked up, that's really, really good. But try to remember to rotate your stuff. Go through, see what's about to expire, get that used up, because we don't want anything to go bad while we're waiting. But at the same time, we want to be ready.
Yeah, so Susie T Dog says she's in San Fran. We have quite a few family members in that area, but she's going to be leaving. Yeah, you got to think about the seismic activity in the area. And if you guys ever check out Canadian Prepper, he does a great job with videos. One of the things he harps on is the nuclear power plants. And, that was one of the things that nudged me west as opposed to staying east. Because I'm an Easterner, really, and at the same time, all those nuclear power plants that are loaded in the East, not good, definitely not good. So this is talking about crop losses. Now, Iowa had that derecho that went through and did massive damage, as we've talked about. There's just been one thing after another. So the USDA says the U.S. corn crop in the top 18 producing states is at 64%. So it's a 5-point drop from the prior week. Crop ratings for Iowa dropped as well. USDA rating just half the state's corn crop in good to excellent category. That's a 9-point plunge from the week prior. The poor to very poor category increased 4% to 21% as well. And we're talking about the largest corn growing state in the U.S. at 14 million acres. And he also goes on to say, I don't think the crop potential in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Nebraska is enough to offset the losses that we're going to experience in Iowa from drought and derecho. All this is going to lead to tremendous food inflation. It really is kind of biblical, because it's going to be like 2 days' wages for 2 ear of corn. But something like a diamond ring might be very cheap. Things that are frivolous that we used to value to a high degree will probably end up being borderline worthless when people are faced with the prospect of going hungry or not having enough, not having a roof over your head. And having just the basics covered. The basics are going to be going to all new levels as far as prices, and the decoupling from China and everything going on there as well is going to impact the dollar. So get ready, get ready. I know a lot of people have probably heard about how expensive things got in Venezuela. Well, it might get kind of interesting over here as well.
Yeah, it might get pretty interesting here. And one thing I think people should stock up on and have plenty of is seeds. Seeds are really, really important. I remember when the COVID-19 came out, one of the things they were trying to stop the sale of was seeds. And that's something that's really good that you can have that you can use to trade.
Yeah, and I got a picture yesterday from my good friend David Devine, the DAP 2030, and it was a truckload of seeds that he had just gone and picked up. So a literal truckload of seeds. So he knows what he's doing. I trust David implicitly when it comes to knowledge of the food situation, and believe me, it's very, very serious, as he always talks about. Him and also Christian, Ice Age Farmer, two great guys, two really, really good individuals that are doing their best to try to wake up everybody as much as possible. And they do a great job, just like Dutch does, and so many other great channels like BP and others, Dabu, keeping us all informed and sharing our knowledge amongst each other as well. And then our good brother Mark over there, Blue Kool-Aid, Wages World. I know, he usually will. I'll check the phone and it'll be like, CME incoming. Check it out. It's good to have people like that are trying to keep everybody, keep everybody awake that's already awake, and then waken others to what's coming. So here you see, reminiscent of Mao's, Mao Zedong. Due to Secretary Xi's belligerence, China is facing rapid food price inflation, shortages, and famine. It's due to a lot of things. Everybody always wants to put their spin on it. Obviously, the earth changes are one thing, and the weather warfare that's going on, I think, is another thing as well. China's soybean purchases are out of panic, not compliance with up to 1/3 of their crops underwater. Up to 1/3, it's worse than that. David was showing 85% of this year's crops were damaged. So, this is part of what's going to drive things, and it's part of that bigger plan. But, people get desperate in these times when, we are hit with these weather events that just impact the planet. It's on a planetary scale. And then there's going to be that grab for resources. And we see it happening right now.
Yeah, and the prices are going to go up and up and up. So that's why it's really good to not only have food backstocked, make sure you rotate your food because we don't want to waste anything. Have your seeds, just do your absolute best as far as being prepared for as much as you can is concerned.
Yeah, and Christine MacArthur just brought up the idea of trade. That's where we're heading, and what the powers that be are going to do is they're going to take away cash. That's already in process. If we want to see what's going to happen in the U.S. and the rest of the Western world, look what's going on in Australia. Who thought Australia would lead the world in all this? But unfortunately, they are in so many ways as far as the Complete dictatorial lockdown going on. And we have so many, wonderful family members that we love over in Australia, great people. And, they're getting hit so hard with all this lockdown and the tough laws. It's obviously opportunistic. One of the things that has been just high in my mind right now is Australia is huge, right? But most of that land is owned by the Queen. It's such an enormous continent and country. And when you get down to it, the vast majority of the land is owned by the English crown. What the bleep? Excuse me, but, in these times, can't we see there's something wrong here? And when we look out west, California, half of California is owned by the government. 85% of Nevada is. Vast parts of New Mexico, I think around 60% of New Mexico is, and a big chunk of Arizona as well. Same thing with Wyoming. Most of Wyoming is. The one thing I would also mention when we're talking about safe zones, because you might think Wyoming and Montana, great, very, very out there, must be really safe. If there was a nuclear war, though, those are big, big target areas because of all the silos. So, be aware of that. And I know there are those that believe that can't happen, but there is evidence that we've had nuclear blasts on the planet before. There's radioactivity in certain places, like the Sinai, for one. Uh, Many people have gotten the message that there would be intervention from higher powers if there was any sort of major nuclear exchange, and that very well could be the case. And that also could be why they've lowered the payloads on so many of these weapons as well, as we saw that go into effect this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of evidence saying, and I've seen a lot of videos in the past where I do believe that the ETs have stepped in and made it so that certain things can't get launched. And I believe that they would do it again. I know because it's such a catastrophic event. It just goes through the galaxy and it really kind of screws up in the ether too. So I really don't feel that they would let anything major catastrophic happen.
Yes, but at the same time, we know 1871, that was such an interesting year, and the whole plan for three world wars was laid out in that particular year, as well as the United States becoming a corporation, which it is, and the Banking Act of 1871. Very interesting year, and then you had the Chicago fire, where people actually saw flying saucers emitting light, and then fires popping up. It's really curious. But our history is way more curious than we really realize when you get down to it. Yeah, they are up there watching. There's a lot of ships and things being seen. And here we see mysterious spiral-shaped ultraviolet light pulses over Mars. I forget who it was. Somebody was doing a really good show just putting up pictures of some of the strange stuff that's been found on Mars. And yeah, no way some of those shapes are natural. Just natural. No way. And it feels like Mars perhaps was first inhabited fully, maybe even before the Earth. And it does feel like Mars suffered from something that might be very much like a nuclear Armageddon, as its atmosphere was stripped mostly away. Though there still is a little atmosphere as we see this interesting lights, and that is enhanced, by the way. This is out of Never a Straight Answer, NASA. But it almost feels like they have to give us some clues all the time. So the South Pole has a night glow with a spiral pattern, which pulses once a day. This, however, is just the tip of the iceberg, as the red planet surrounded by pulsating night glow. Over the North Pole, there's a bright blob that pulses twice a day, while there are three blobs pulsing thrice a day around the equator. The phenomenon is complex, so they developed a general circulation model of the Martian atmosphere to make sense of it. So they say it's all about ultraviolet light from the sun breaking apart CO2 and N2 molecules into CO and N atoms. Atmospheric circulation brings atoms to the night side, Air descends, and N and O atoms combine to form an O molecule, emitting an ultraviolet proton. Or maybe just some ETs forget to turn off the lights.
And I want to say a huge thank you so much. Always curious. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
So what we got right here is a guide to hurricane preparedness, and talks about when to evacuate. I'll have the link there for you guys as well. Have at least one bug out location, and maybe two. And we could talk about this being not just for hurricanes as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration for all kinds of different reasons.
And as I shared with you before, when we were in, I think we were around Winslow, Arizona, and I was in a gas station fueling up and just went inside. And there's young man came in and said, "You got any maps?" And the clerks were like, "No, we don't have any maps." All gas stations used to have maps. Now we're so reliant on GPS. What happens when the GPS is out? We can't just bring it up on our phones anymore. And so this young man was like, "What is wrong with you guys? What if there's a CME or an EMP?" And I was thinking, "Oh God, he's got to be one of our listeners." But yeah, maps. Have a full tank of gas. I don't like to let it go below a quarter. When we're on the road, I always kind of keep it at a half, just in case. Plus, when you're towing, you don't get that good of gas mileage. Don't take shortcuts that you're not familiar with. Be wary of shortcuts. Never drive in the flooded areas, as we're talking about. Keep in touch with friends and family. Let them know what you're doing. Don't forget the pets, of course. Unplug all electrical equipment before you leave. Yeah, because water floods in, you might end up with a fire. Put your furniture on cinder blocks. Cover your furniture with tarps too. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. Biggest dangers: storm surge, strong winds, torrential rain, and it was in. Trying to remember. I remember there was a young man that got electrocuted. I forget where it was, but it was due to a storm, and he didn't realize that you couldn't even see that there was an electrical cord, under the water. So, that's one of the things to really keep in mind.
Yeah, a lot of stuff like that. I mean, little things that might not be so little in the long run are pretty important. So it's really good to go over your information once or twice and just check and double check.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to prepare for, most definitely. We want to thank everybody that's supporting us over on Patreon and also on Ko-Fi. And thank you guys for being patient with this, the way we had to do this with using the phone. And as always, guys, stay prepared out there. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.